All right, so this is objective 3.4 avid notes. My essential question, turn the directions into a question. So the directions said, let me see, let me answer right here. The directions said factor, then sketch the graphs of polynomial functions, label the intercepts, okay? So, how, thank you. Kaylee, where's Kaylee?
Yeah, I'll pass it back.
Okay, how do you factor, then sketch polynomial functions? Okay. Yay. Thank you, thank you. Okay, so then I'm going to put my name. Because sometimes you guys don't put names, and then when I tell you to put stuff into the folder, I stamp the wrong one. Okay, so number 9 said g of x equals x to the 4th minus 10x squared plus 9. And on Thursday, we talked about how to graph trinomials when this power is not 2. Right? And that was called quadratic form or trinomial form. So I'm going to write that over here on my hint side, okay? If you have something in your first term and you can rewrite it as something squared, and your middle term, you can have a coefficient outside, it doesn't matter. But I have whatever is in here shows up again in the middle term. And then you have a third term. So as long as these two are the same, then you can use trinomial factoring, which is the binomial times the binomial. And there was a problem in our notes last time where there was a coefficient here as well. The coefficient does not need to be inside this part that's in squares. Okay, zoom in a little bit. Okay, so now I want to start working on the problem, and then I like to do my summary to the right. Okay? So let's see here. I want to try to do this pattern. Something squared, and see if it shows up again in the middle term. Okay? Naya, can I rewrite this first term as something squared?
Yeah.
What squared is x to the 4th power?
X squared.
X squared. Very good. So x squared squared is x to the 4th. Does x squared show up in the middle term? Yes. So that means trinomial factoring is possible. And it tends to be one of the easier ones, so we're going to attempt that. Okay. So I'm going to have something times something. Okay. Madison H. What times what is our x to the 4th power here?
X squared.
Mm-hmm.
X squared.
Very, very good. And I'm going to stay with you, Madison. What times what is 9?
3.
3. And what?
9 and 1, sorry.
9 and 1. So you know that 3 and 3 is not going to work?
Yes.
Okay. And how did you know it wasn't going to work?
It has to equal -10.
And so this is going to be negative 3x squared, negative 3x squared, which is negative 6x squared. So it's not going to work. Okay, so you're saying we're going to use a 9 and a 1 instead?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So I wrote down, even though I didn't get it right on the first try, I'm still writing it down because when I'm studying for the test, I don't want to give myself a false impression that I'm going to get it right on the first try. So I like showing the check there, okay? So check and try again. That's my little note to self. Because sometimes when I'm nervous about a test or if I'm overwhelmed because I have, you know, an anatomy test or chem test or, you know, whatever it is, sometimes I get bogged down. I don't remember the little details. Okay? So, minus, minus. Okay. Okay, so then, is it factored completely? What do you guys think, class? Is it factored completely?
No.
No, and I'm looking at my homework going, no, I went further. Okay. So, what should I do?
X minus 3.
X minus 3, x plus 3. Oh yeah, Tristan, you were so good at this. Okay? I do remember this from class last time. You did so good.
You should become a math teacher.
Good. I didn't want to be a math teacher when I was in high school.
I don't think anybody.
Is that a new color?
Yeah, so I used green there. I'm probably on color overload, but whatevs.
I like it.
All right. Okay, Marcelo, what should I do for this one?
+1 net minus 1.
Yes, very good. So now it's factored completely, and we can start graphing. Okay. Once it's in completely factored form, we can graph. Okay, so I'm going to move it up just so you guys can see a little better. Okay, and some of you are going to cut your graph out, and that's fine. I'm going to might do some work over here, so I'm going to leave some space. Yes. Okay, is it focused?
Yeah, it's focused.
Okay, so then I know I need to plot my intercepts. How many intercepts am I going to have? What do you think, Marcelo? How many am I going to have?
Probably 4.
4. Okay, so what's the first one?
3.
3. Good.
-3.
-3. Got it. Good.
1.
1. And what's the other one?
-1.
Good. Okay, and then why do I always put all those little letters on my graph? How come there's all these T's and B's everywhere when I'm
Well,
looking at my homework?
if it's odd,
Uh-huh.
I'm pretty sure it goes through.
Through?
And
If it's odd?
If it's even,
Yeah,
and if it's even, it bounces.
Oh, okay. Okay, so if it's even, what part being even? You're right.
The top, the exponent.
The x. There's no exponent. What is that invisible? 1 or through. Good. So I'm going to put T's for through on all of them because none of them have a square or an even exponent. Okay, now, I had another point on my graph. I'm looking at my answer from number 9, and there was another point, and it was on my y-axis. How do I get that number?
You have to plug in 0 for all the rest.
Plug in 0 for all of the x's. Good. So I take my equation. Which one is easier, to use the new one or the original one?
The new one.
The new one? Okay. Does it matter?
No.
Are they the same? Are they equal
Yeah.
in value?
Same thing.
So I like the first one.
I like the second one.
Okay, I like the, do you know why I like this one?
Why?
Because if you multiply by 0.
Because if I'm plugging in 0, so the x here is going to become 0, right? Let me see. So this becomes 0, that becomes 0. Okay, so what is 0 to the 4th power?
0.
0. And what is -10 times 0 squared?
0.
0. And then I have plus 9. So what is 0 minus 0 plus 9?
9.
9. So if you did it a different way, it's totally okay. You do not have to plug it into the top one, but oftentimes finding the y-intercept is easiest in the top one.
Where'd
Okay.
you get the 0?
So where did I get the 0?
Yeah.
This equation here, so I have this y-axis,
Yeah.
and normally we just label a y on it. But because it's a vertical line, vertical lines are x equals a number. and x equals a number for a vertical line right in this position is what value? 0. So the equation of the y-axis is x is 0. And so I plug in the 0 to figure out when does this graph cross that line.
And then how'd you get the negative 10 from the top?
So yes, negative 10 and plus 9 are from that one.
Okay.
Good. Okay, so I end up with a 9. And that's a y number, right? Doesn't g of x equal y?
Yeah.
Okay, so is 9 on the top part of the y-axis or the bottom? Top, good. Okay, so then I need to find my overall end behavior so that I can determine is it up, up, down, 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 up, all that craziness, okay? So,
It's gonna go.
oh my, I know it's a lot of work, guys.
I think you're gonna go the same direction.
Is it going in the same direction? How did you know that, Marcelo?
I honestly,
I'm gonna say yes.
because I was just thinking about it and I just like,
You just thought about it.
yeah.
Okay. So that won't cut it on a test. Yeah, it's too loud.
Not from us.
I know.
Proud of this right now?
Yeah, this is all being recorded, all those conversations. Okay, I don't know why it got loud. Something must have happened. So, Marcelo said they're in the same direction. Okay, so how did he know same direction?
Doesn't someone do like positive and negative?
It has something to do with something.
The degree is even.
The degree is even. Very good. So the degree is a 4, and 4 is an even number, which means it's going in the same direction. Okay, now you said, doesn't it have something to do with positive or negative? Yes. What positive or negative?
Degree.
No, the degree is always going to be a positive. The leading coefficient. What is the leading coefficient? 1. Okay, and so we don't necessarily care about the value when we're doing a sketch, but we care that it's odd. No, we don't. Do we?
Oh wait, never mind. Positive. Yeah.
Positive or negative. And so this is positive. So this is a thought bubble, usually. I don't usually write a lot down for this part. This is my thought bubble. If it's an even, what is the smallest even polynomial that we learned in Unit 1?
2.
The 2. Okay, what shape was the one with the 2?
Up, up.
An upward facing U. Okay, so when did we know? That was this one, right? Positive x squared, which you kind of learned about in Math 1, and then we talk about it again in Unit 1 of Math 3.
Why'd you erase odd and put positive?
Because we don't care that the leading coefficient is odd. We only care if it's positive or negative, because the leading coefficient tells us the stretch. And if it's a positive stretch, we stretch up. If it's a negative stretch, we stretch down. Jaden.
Can you because I can't see the bottom.
Oh, yeah. Second. There we go. Okay, so I know it's going to go up, up. I like that Marcelo said same. Okay, it's going up towards infinity. And then I always think of it like a puzzle, because I like puzzles.
It doesn't matter what happens to the middle, right?
It does a little bit, but not here. Like this is only the ends, not this part. It's not going to be a U. It's probably going to be like a W or some crazy something else, okay? So I'm going to start here, I want to finish here, and I'm going to go through, end there, and not create any new marks on the y-axis or x-axis, okay? So here, bam, through, up, all the way up, through. Oh, look, it's a W. Yes. I know, it's a weird W, but it's still a W. Kind of looks like an upside down McDonald's arch.
True.
Okay, so I'm gonna do my steps over here. You guys can do your steps the way you want, but I'm gonna think aloud as I'm doing my steps, okay, so that you guys can hear the process that's going on in my brain, okay? You guys are free to write down the steps in any way that you want, okay? So what I did first was I identified the type of polynomial, whether it was a trinomial or difference of squares, okay? So, I wanted to know what kind of factoring. So I wanted to know, determine type of factoring. I like that. Determine.
Is it cool if I just redraw the graph because I kind of had a boo-boo?
Yeah, you should have just, instead of doing whiteout.
No, like
Without a
I have
new
like 3
quiz.
different problems on there. I had to see.
Oh, okay. Determine type of factoring. Okay, and so over here I had trinomial factoring, so I want to write that down. I remember that there's other types of factoring though that are going to pop up, like difference of 2 squares.
What does it say? A small? A same?
Yeah. Okay, and so I remember that the difference of 2 squares thing was like something squared minus something squared, and then that ended up being a plus b, a minus b. Okay, and then there was also GCF factoring. That's always the one I forget about, so I want to make sure I just write it down. I think I remember how to do it, but it's always the one I forget about. So I'm just going to give myself a little reminder by writing that word there. Okay, so I determined the type of factoring, and I did that kind of here in blue. So factoring, that's the key word that I like. Okay. Okay, so I can see where I did that there. I like that. Then I had to check, so I don't want to forget that. So check.
Can you move it up too?
Like that?
Yeah.
Check factoring. And I did that there in purple. The keyword, I'm writing in like more than I usually like to look back at. So I'm just highlighting keywords and connecting them with the color I did it in, so that on test day, if I kind of get it, I can just look at those keywords and see. But then if I'm really confused and need more detail, then I can read it again. Okay, so check factoring. All right, and then I looked for a difference of 2 squares. Look for difference of 2 squares and factor.
There's a lot of factoring.
Again, yeah, this one had a lot of factoring. I agree. Okay, so I did find it there, and I annotated that one in green. Okay, and I did that one in that like pink color, so. Okay, and so then I factored it completely, and then I plotted my x-intercepts. Plot x-intercepts. Okay, and I did that here with the green and the pink again. Okay, and then I labeled the behavior through each intercept. Okay, label, I'm going to put B or T at each x-intercept, and I'm going to abbreviate it this time. Okay, so over here I want to remind myself, okay, B equals bounce. And I bounce whenever the multiplicity is even.
Can you move that up a little bit? So you see the top? Like, so we can see the top. Yeah.
Okay. And then T stood for through. And that's when the multiplicity is odd. Okay. Okay. And then what did I do? I found the y-intercept by plugging in 0. Okay, so calculate y-intercept. Okay, and so I want to remind myself how to do that because I don't want to forget when I'm nervous. And so y-intercept substitute x with 0 and solve for y. Okay, that's an E and calculate. All right, and then I want to plot it. So, and plot. Okay, and then I did the end behavior. Determine end behavior. Okay, and mark graph. Okay, and so I did that here in my pink pen. And behavior. Okay, and then I want to remind myself of how to do that, but I used up all of my note space. So I could always grab a Post-it and do it on a Post-it if I want to. Okay. Uh-huh. See what? Oh, yeah. Wait till I'm done, because I'm still, like, thinking aloud. I guess I can put it right here. Okay, so I'm going to cover this up while I write the last part of the notes that I want to add. I would put this in my tips if I had enough room. Okay, so end behavior. And I liked that table thing that we did before. So I like this one where I have positive x squared is this way. Negative x squared is that way. Positive linear or odd power goes that way, and negative goes this way. For me, I'm very visual, so if I think of the basic pictures, that helps me the most. So for me, that's all I need. But for some of you, you might want to add something different, like degree, even, LC, positive, something like that. For me, the pictures help me more because I'm very visual. This is too wordy for me, and it wouldn't help me on test day, so I'm going to keep my images like that. Okay, and then I'm going to write my last step here, which is connect left to right. And I might want to give myself a hint. I want to make sure I don't do anything extra. So maybe I will put something like that. Maybe I would get like a red pen or something. Marker would be awesome. Highlighter. Don't do any extras. So no extra intercepts. Oh yeah, and I remember when Mrs. Nieves said brick wall. Yeah, that kind of helps me remember. So I'm going to write brick wall. Because when I vision that, oh, not bring wall, brick wall. Again, I'm very, very visual, and so, not brink wall.
Yeah.
Brick. Man, brick wall. Man, it's a lot of pressure. This YouTube famous stuff is hard. This is hard stuff right here. I'm trying to be YouTube famous. Okay, So that's another note to testing self, okay? And then this guy, I don't really want it in the middle, so maybe what I'll do is I'll stick him, like my post-it is a boy, I call it a him. Okay. No, I'm gonna put this over here, and then I'm gonna say, it's like a pop-up book now, pop-up Avid notes. Okay. Okay. Flip for more info. Bing, 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 bing. That's awesomeness right there. Yes. Okay. It is a lot, and I write really, really big. So, but that's what I would do. You guys don't have to have that much detail. Okay? That's how I do it. But notice that I underlined very few things to connect with my example. And then over here, I might not need this much detail if I don't think I'll forget about it. These are notes to your future self, your test-taking self. Assume the worst case scenario. Will I be nervous about this test? Will I have a lot going on in my life when I take this test? What do you want to tell yourself in the worst conditions? Predictable, you know, have multiple tests on one day, being overwhelmed, okay? Don't obviously predict really awful situations because that's depressing. But anyway, all right? Yes. But I think of it as my notes to future self. You are awesome.